The real reason why we're here. Welcome our first speaker, and as a Eden Prairie 1 Million Cups tradition, a standing ovation for Lou Abrahowski with EverGreen.
Well, I hope I can live up to that, I suppose. My name's Lou. A bunch of you actually already know me, I think affectionately as Hot Lou. Story maybe we can get into later. But I am a very youthful looking 139 years old as of a couple months ago. Well, maybe not exactly, but some of you already know this, but in 2010 I started doing an experiment where I changed my birthday to the current day on Facebook every single day until I got no more happy birthday messages. Because I'm sure you guys are very familiar. Every time you have your birthday on Facebook, you start hearing from people you haven't heard from like since college or high school or whatever. And I just wanted to see how long it was going to take until I stopped getting sincere happy birthday messages. And as it turned out, it took 100 days for that to happen. I was expecting to do this for about a week, and during the experiment, I think I lost a couple friends just on Facebook, not in real life, as far as I know. But a couple interesting things happened as I was doing this experiment. One, I started getting happy birthday messages from the same people sincerely again, who had either forgotten or maybe they were in on the joke or something along those lines, where they started wishing me happy birthday multiple times during this experiment. And it was 2010, I was running a startup in town called 8th Bridge that was building social commerce for the first time ever on Facebook. And I was trying to draw some conclusions that I might bring over to some of our customers. And the biggest thing that I took away from this was that when you've got a good piece of content, especially one that doesn't have like an expiration, and I realized that birthdays do have an expiration, specifically the day of your birthday, but if people don't know whether it's your birthday or not, it's kind of evergreen content. It's going to be interesting and valuable almost no matter when somebody consumes it. And that's why you see things like memes and viral videos. They can not only go on for a really, really long time, but they kind of recirculate occasionally. And at the time, the kind of conventional wisdom on Facebook, which still persists today, by the way, was that all content had to be kind of single serving and had to be new and exciting and relevant to the current time. So I started doing other experiments on Facebook, specifically running a couple pages where all I did was fill up a content library of evergreen content, and I just recycled that content over and over and over. And it turned out I was able to build really large audiences just relying mostly on this evergreen content. Specifically, I helped my girlfriend at the time, who was a children's entertainer named Twig the Fairy. Anybody who's been out at the Renaissance Festival is probably familiar with her, because we built up her audience to over 250,000 likes on Facebook using primarily this strategy. And as it so happened, 8th Bridge's office was right next to Jack Link's Beef Jerky's, a brand new marketing office in the Twin Cities. And in the hallway, I was talking to the one employee that they had running all of digital marketing for this billion-dollar brand. And they had 6,000 likes on Facebook, and my fairy girlfriend had like 100,000 at the time. She said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm happy to help you. And about a year later, they had over 1 million likes on their Facebook page on a budget that never went over $20 in a single day. And that was really just using this strategy. Well, I started applying this strategy to a bunch of different communities on Facebook, and like a year and a half into this, I was running about 30 or 40 Facebook pages where all it was this evergreen content, and some of it was ultimate Frisbee enthusiasts, some of it was like cool destinations, cute baby animal pictures. And as you might imagine, my entire life was just pointing and clicking and scheduling content. And that just got tiresome, and I just woke up one day and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a software developer with a computer science background. This is a software problem. So I just wrote some software, and then all of a sudden, what was like 5 hours of pointing and clicking for me every single day just turned into one time I moved all the content into a couple Dropbox folders, and randomly out of these evergreen content libraries, which were folders on my desktop, I was publishing onto these Facebook pages, and then there was no more pointing and clicking. So fast forward a couple years later, 8th Bridge gets acquired. I'm looking for my next thing. I'm trying to raise money for a different company altogether when somebody asks me about this software that I have that's managing these Facebook pages. And I said, yeah, if you want to use it, go ahead. And they're like, great, no problem. And I started signing people up, and I realized, and I woke up and I said, this is a business. This is a real need. People want to publish a lot on Facebook. They should be doing it. They're persuaded by a lot of VAs that are doing social media management, spending $400, $800 a month to post 5 times, when my software can do it 12 times a day, just using software. So after I kind of woke up, I realized I could start selling this, and that's what I did. And in true entrepreneurial spirit, like Patrick was kind of describing here, my very first iteration of this, I literally just sent out a PayPal link that had a recurring fee on it. I sent out another link that had to authorize their Facebook page, and then another link that's authorized their Dropbox account, and then I went in and edited the database and made that all work. So there was no front end at the beginning. And when people talk about what Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn founder, says about if you launch your product and you're not embarrassed, it's probably too late. I spent a year and probably 3 or 4 months, and I think Ryan, I showed you the first iteration, there was no front end, yeah. I think the very first time. So it was about a year and change where I made enough money where I could invest and build a front end. So today I've got a name for the product, I've got a fully self-service, now you can go and sign up, you don't have to wait for me to email you a PayPal link or a Dropbox link, all self-service. The site is at evergreen.to, and I've had about 14 straight months now of growth where I've been adding customers every single month. And really, I'm not doing any advertising or marketing at this point. I'm still trying to gather and solicit feedback, bootstrap this thing for when I'm really ready to blow it up and start doing some digital marketing, and I feel like I'm ready. But got a handful of customers. I think we had a day where I published 30,000 posts across all of my customers. Pretty recently, and that's where EverGreen's at today.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah.
So our first question is always, what can our community do for you and for EverGreen?
So the quick elevator pitch for EverGreen is that it's a social media automation tool for small and medium businesses who don't have the time, resources, or expertise to run their own social media. So if you qualify, and I think the organizations that qualify for that tend to be like dentist offices, chiropractors, churches, an organization that has some sort of digital or social footprint, but has nobody on staff to manage it on their own, doesn't really want to spend the $400 to $800 on a VA, and is interested in trying a new product that they can also help guide the future of their product roadmap. That's what I'm looking for. Customers that that love to give feedback about how to make a product better like that, and can really kind of be a driving force of what's going to end up being the product a year from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's open it up.
Yeah.
How well or how much do you need to know about Facebook to be able to use the application?
Nothing really. I mean, honestly, so about 4 or 5 months ago, I started offering a discount for people who wanted to subscribe annually, and I give a small little content library so they can get started. So, the biggest burden I think for most people when they try to start doing digital marketing or social media marketing is they don't know anything about it, right? They're starting from scratch and don't know what kinds of content really resonates with them, with a potential audience. So I'm trying to take away all of those barriers. I'm really trying to build a product that is for a social media novice or somebody who feels like they have to have a social media presence, but knows nothing about it, doesn't have a huge budget, doesn't have anybody on staff that wants to tackle it, and doesn't want to spend the hour and a half every single week scheduling out content. So really all you need to know is how to sign into Facebook, sign into Dropbox, and put images in a Dropbox folder, and the software does all of the rest and makes sure you're publishing basically every single day.
When you say you give somebody a starter EverGreen library, are you creating the content? Or are you helping them sit through stuff they've already done to say, this is EverGreen and this is expired?
So for some of the verticals that I mentioned, like dentistry, chiropractic, what we have is free for commercial use libraries where our customers can use that in any purpose, whether they're building brochures, paying for advertising, whatever. So we've got already built-in content libraries like that, and then we brand it. So you can imagine for like a dentist office, you know, it's like photos of having no cavities, or tips on how to brush your teeth, or
But you help them put their brand on it, so it means
well, we'll
something.
even brand it for them on those ones.
Okay.
So for kind of other one-offs, we make a little bit smaller libraries, and you can kind of fit those images into one of three categories. It'll be inspirational, educational, or entertaining. But by and large, it's going to be mostly inspirational quote images with their logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sorry, is it just Facebook still, or do you do Twitter and Instagram?
Facebook and Twitter
Okay.
so far. And you know, we hope to bring on other platforms, but those are the ones that are most meaningful. Instagram is super meaningful too, but Instagram is very anti-automation. As I'm sure a handful of you guys already know, if you try to even start using automation, or you try to circumvent the API, you can get shut down real quick by Instagram, yeah. So there's a handful of publishing tools and scheduling tools. In fact, yesterday Instagram announced that they're building in a scheduling tool inside of Instagram. But I think it's gonna be a long time before any sort of automation tool can function under the terms of service of their API, yeah. Hi.
It sounds like you have a very interesting problem when it comes to acquiring customers. You said your typical customers are not probably Facebook savvy or don't have time to go on Facebook. Customers like that.
Well, so today, really what I'm doing is this kind of stuff. And almost all of my customers have come from small little speaking things like this or word of mouth. I'd say about half of my customers have come from referrals, and the other half have come from rooms like this. Now for attacking specific industries, that's going to be kind of a very typical trade show type of environment. But we're also experimenting with doing online webinars about training and giving free information to a specific vertical. Where, you know, I think almost every other product that's out on the marketplace today, when they offer education, they offer it very broadly, right? They want to educate the social media expert. You know, our approach is going to be very specific to an individual vertical or industry, and say, here are the things that are working really, really well. You can think about it as, you know, a strategy just for dentist offices, where that's going to be very different from, you know, having a community-oriented page on Facebook or a software-oriented page on Facebook. You know, the stuff you see from a dentist office are little kids smiling, saying they had no cavities today, right? Or it's going to be tips on, you know, how to make sure you're flossing your teeth every day, stuff like that. Yeah.
What's your pricing model look like?
So, so today we've got a kind of freemium model, although we really have almost nobody using the free service, and I'm going to be shutting that down. Where you can publish once a day from your content library using that, but I really recommend people should be publishing several more times than once a day. And that's $49 a month for connecting up to 3 accounts, so that would be 3 Facebook pages, 2 Facebook pages, and a Twitter. And then I give a 25% discount on an annual plan, along with, like I said, a content library for you to start with. So we give a handful of bonuses like that to our annual customers. So it ends up being about $449 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi.
So the big differential between like Hootsuite and your service is the content library and that type of thing? Or?
Not really. So the content library is really just about a bonus, right? That's really just to help somebody get started. The big difference between a Hootsuite and a Buffer and what EverGreen does is those tools are scheduling tools. This is an automation tool. You set this thing up one time and it's just gonna run for you forever. I literally have a page that's been running on this software for 6 years. I've never, ever once scheduled something using any other tool, and now it's got like 70,000 likes on that page. It's just a cool destinations page, and all it's done is just every 4 to 6 hours for the last 6 years has posted a cool destination, and there's only like 1,100 photos in the library, and they just keep recycling over and over. So there's like nothing that I have to do to manage that. Whereas with a Hootsuite and a Buffer, which I think are amazing tools for people who do have the expertise and time to schedule out their content, you know, EverGreen works really well with those tools for the times when you lose the staff member because they changed career, they went on vacation for 2 weeks, or you moved them into a new position and they don't have time to do social media anymore. Those times are when somebody's been posting on social media for 3.5 months straight, and then all of a sudden it goes 4 months and everybody's like, why haven't we posted anything on Facebook? EverGreen's the tool to fill in when those things happen, or just plain, you know, it's Thanksgiving. You know, the next 5 days, nothing gets published at all because nobody set up anything to publish over the weekend using a Hootsuite or a Buffer, and EverGreen fills in those gaps. Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Go
can
ahead.
fill in the gaps for what a dentist office is already doing. So
Exactly.
for example, if a company had a brand new product and wanted to reach all the dental offices in the Twin Cities, could they create a content library, then sign up all those dentist offices and supplement what they're doing? Is that something that you could do?
Yeah, exactly. So, so there'd be a couple ways to handle that, but really, EverGreen only publishes when you aren't publishing other things. So it is fully automated kind of fallback tool. So the idea is that if you are running some sort of promotion or campaign, EverGreen's not going to get in the way of that.
Can you make
Right.
it get in the way?
You can, yeah. So if what you wanted to do is instead tie it up to a library that was campaign oriented and then just run that for 3 weeks and not have to worry about it, that's all you'd have to do is just fill up that library with that content. Yeah,
But you could do both. They could be doing their own while you're doing.
exactly. Yep, exactly. I saw you had a
What kind of
question.
engagement are you seeing off these automated pages? Because I mean, ultimately likes are nice, but you want click-throughs, I mean, right?
Sure, yeah. So today EverGreen's really focused on native content. So it's not campaign oriented or promotional oriented. So this is really to make sure that you're not like falling out of sight, out of mind. In the future, we might support something that is a little bit more campaign oriented, but for today, it's really about making sure that you are getting some sort of engagement. And when you're talking about like likes and comments and shares, typically EverGreen is gonna outperform something that is a little bit more sales driven, campaign driven. And that's not EverGreen doing anything special, that's just the nature of social media, right? It's really hard to get somebody like pumped up and loving, you know, a 10% discount on whatever product you have that afternoon. But the idea is that by turning something on in an automated way, you're making sure you're publishing all the time. And a lot of our customers use this as feedback for what they want to do for any of their paid media or their other campaigns. So I've got at least one customer who saw that one of these images that was in their content library outperformed everything else, and they're like, I never would have guessed our audience and our customers would have found this interesting, and now it's part of their brochures when they're selling their products. So that's really the value in making sure you're publishing frequently and natively, rather than actually trying to drive sales. And then when you start doing like paid promotion to get more likes on your page, things like that, it can be really valuable to look back at that information and see what kinds of native content are performing well. Does that kind of answer your question? So it's not to take away from the like promotional types of things or campaign oriented things. I think there's other great products for that stuff. EverGreen is really to make sure you're publishing something all of the time that isn't always salesy, especially in social media. I saw you had a question.
What about the copy, the content copy? How does that get generated?
Yeah, so today you put all these images in your Dropbox folder and it publishes all the images. And for the caption, it actually uses the file name. So it excludes any sort of file extension, and it supports on Facebook any image type and any video type. And it'll just ignore your file extension. And on Twitter, it also supports animated GIFs, which I'm sure everybody's super pumped about. So yeah, it'll just use that caption, or it'll use the file name as your caption there.
I have time for 2 more questions.
Sure. Tim? Well,
Are you able to do any tracking to find out whether you're cranking up the likes on Facebook has any effect on the, what I'm thinking of is a company that's got a social media team that's doing what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of meh, no big deal.
Yeah.
You come in, all of a sudden, they get an extra 100,000 likes.
yeah.
How can that help affect the total overall page.
Yeah, I'd love to see you turn on EverGreen and get 100,000 likes, but that's not happening. You know, those hockey stick days, hockey stick growth days are kind of behind us, but it does help. And we are collecting all the analytics, we just don't have a front end for the analytics just yet. But the idea is that by posting this native content that is engaging people, that when you do these promotional campaigns, you're reaching a larger audience. All right, I'll be here afterwards too, so I can, yeah, why don't you go ahead?
I was gonna ask you, so, like when you talk to your friends that are in digital media marketing, right, some of the real specialists, the real seniors,
Yeah.
what is their reaction? What's that conversation
It's
like?
really negative. It's
Okay.
really negative. And I think it's for two reasons. One is this like persistent, I think, misguided conception that content shouldn't be recycled and it should be kind of single serving and relevant to the current day and time. I think it's a little short-sighted. And I know it because I run 1,000 of my own pages on this software now. And I see that those pages that are running in a fully automated way outperform a human that is running their page that will go sometimes 3-4 days without publishing anything. The other thing is I think it's a little bit of self-preservation, right? And I think there are awesome digital social media marketers out there, but you know, by and large, I don't know that you can really, without a sophisticated social media strategy, just have social media posts really getting a return on investment on its own, especially if you're paying somebody $800 a month to do
Yeah,
it.
just so the last small question. So do you see your clients scheduling, but also using the automation, kind of combining both
Yeah,
together?
yeah, almost all of them will use this tool to grow their audience while they're sleeping. And then when the time comes for them to do like, hey, we're doing a big sale, we're doing a book launch, we've got little Timmy without a cavity this morning, that stuff is generally gonna outperform your EverGreen content in terms of what the numbers mean, right? Your top line revenue, that's the stuff that's gonna work. But a tool like EverGreen makes sure that you're reaching a larger audience when that time comes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Let's give a
guys.
round of applause.